The evening rush had faded from the glass towers of Reed and Company, leaving behind only the hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of mops against marble floors. Most employees had gone home, except for one man, Ethan Cole, the janitor. Quiet, methodical, and invisible, Ethan moved through the building with practiced rhythm. He never spoke much, never drew attention. To most people, he was just a guy who cleaned the CEO's office and emptied trash bins. No one knew that behind those tired gray eyes lived a man who had once commanded respect few could imagine. Ethan wiped his hands on his worn uniform when he heard small footsteps echoing down the hall. He turned and froze. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, stood there, trembling. Her pink dress was torn, her face streaked with tears. She clutched a small backpack against her chest. "Hey, sweetie," Ethan said softly, crouching to her level. "You lost." The girl shook her head violently. They beat my mama. Please, help. She's dying." Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Who's your mama?" The child sobbed harder. "Mommy works for Mr. Reed in his house. She cleans the big rooms. They hit her. I ran away to find someone." Ethan's breath caught. Mr. Reed, the CEO, the one who owned everything here. "Where is she now?" he asked urgently. "At the big house outside the city," the girl gasped. "Please, sir, come please." Without hesitation, Ethan threw his cleaning glove aside and scooped her up. He didn't think. He just moved. There was a fire in his veins he hadn't felt in years. The night air was sharp when they stepped out. Ethan's old motorcycle sat by the service gate, its paint scratched but engine steady. He wrapped the girl in his jacket. "Hold on tight," he said, voice firm. They tore through the sleeping city, the child's small arms clinging to him. Streetlights flashed across Ethan's face, revealing glimpses of scars, thin, deliberate marks that spoke of a past few could guess. When they reached the Reed's estate, the gates loomed tall, guarded. The house beyond shimmered with wealth and secrecy. Ethan hid the bike behind the trees, then looked at the girl. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lila." "Okay, Lila. Stay behind me, no matter what happens." They slipped through a gap in the side gate, moving quietly through the garden. Voices carried from the servants' quarters, angry, slurred, cruel. Ethan peered inside. 2 men stood over a woman, lying on the floor, bleeding, barely conscious. Her arms were bruised, her breath shallow. One man, in a guard's uniform, kicked her hard in the ribs. "That'll teach you to talk back," he sneered. Ethan's world went still. He hadn't seen combat in years, but the instincts came roaring back like a storm. His jaw clenched, and his eyes sharpened with cold focus. "Stay here," he whispered to Lila. Then he stepped into the light. The guards turned. "Who the hell are you?" "Custodian," Ethan said quietly. "But you're about to make a mess." They laughed, but the laughter ended fast. Ethan moved like water, fluid, precise, unstoppable. One guard swung. Ethan dodged, grabbed his wrist and twisted. One sharp motion. A crack echoed. The second reached for a weapon, but Ethan was faster. A swift kick sent him sprawling into a table unconscious. It was over in seconds. Lila ran to her mother, crying, "Mommy." The woman's eyes fluttered open weakly. "Lila, you came back." Ethan knelt beside her, checking her pulse and injuries with trained efficiency. He tore off a strip of his shirt and pressed it against the wound. The way he moved, steady, clinical, wasn't that of a janitor. "You're losing blood," he said. "You need a hospital now." Lila's mother looked at him, dazed. "Who are you?" "Someone who used to save people." Ethan replied quietly. He looked at Lila. "Stay close to me." As he carried the woman out, headlights flashed across the yard. A car screeched to a halt. Malcolm Reed, the CEO himself, stepped out, dressed in his usual perfection. His eyes widened at the sight before him. "What's going on here?" he barked. Ethan didn't flinch. "Your guards beat your housekeeper within an inch of her life. She needs medical help." Reed's gaze flicked from Ethan to the injured woman, then to Lila crying in the background. "That's absurd. My men would never." "Then you hired the wrong men." Ethan snapped, something raw in his tone. The CEO frowned. clearly in use of being challenged by a janitor. Watch your mouth. Cole, I could have you fired. Do it later, Ethan interrupted. Right now, she's dying. For a long second, Reed hesitated, then barked at his driver to call an ambulance. As sirens approached, Ethan knelt again by the woman, applying pressure to her wounds, whispering calm words while her daughter clung to his arm. When the medics arrived, one of them froze mid-step. Sir, are you? Ethan gave a warning look, and the medic fell silent. But Reed caught the exchange. You know him? Reed demanded. The medic swallowed. Why, yes, sir. He was Captain Ethan Cole. Special Forces medic. One of the best. Reed's eyes widened. Special Forces? Ethan said nothing. He simply helped lift the woman onto the stretcher, blood staining his hands. Just doing my job, he muttered. But Lila's tiny hand caught his sleeve. You saved my mama, she whispered through tears. You're a hero. Ethan smiled faintly, the first in a long time. No, kiddo, just someone who remembers what it means to help. As the ambulance pulled away, Reed stood watching, stunned. The janitor he'd ignored for months had just dismantled 2 trained men and saved a life with the calm precision of a soldier. Something deep in the CEO's mind shifted that night. He didn't yet know how, but this janitor's secret was about to change everything. Not just for Lila and her mother, but for the empire Reed thought he controlled. The next morning, sunlight spilled over Reed and Company S headquarters. For most employees, it was just another work day. But rumors were already spreading. Whispers of a janitor who had fought off 2 armed guards at the CEO's mansion and saved a dying woman. Inside his office, Malcolm Reed paced behind his glass desk, brows furrowed. His assistant had confirmed the story. His own private guards were in police custody, and the woman, a long-time maid named Maria Torres, was recovering in the hospital. And the man who saved her? Ethan Cole, the quiet janitor. Reed still couldn't wrap his head around it. He replayed the night in his mind. The precision of Ethan's movements, the authority in his voice, the way the paramedic had called him captain. A knock sounded at the door. Send him in. Reed said. Ethan entered, calm as ever. He'd changed into a fresh uniform, but faint bruises on his knuckles hinted at what had happened. Mr. Reed, he greeted. Reed gestured to the chair. Sit. We need to talk. Ethan stayed standing. If it's about last night, I've already spoken to the police. They'll handle your guards. I'm not here to talk about them, Reed said slowly. I'm here to talk about you. He leaned forward. Why would a man with your background, Special Forces medic, from what I hear, end up mopping floors in my building? Ethan's eyes hardened. Because some of us don't get to choose where we end up. I wasn't looking for attention. I just needed work and peace. Peace. Reed scoffed. You could have had anything. Money, security, a career. Why throw it away? Ethan met his gaze. Because money doesn't wash blood off your hands, sir. I saw too much. Lost too much. I came here to forget. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the city far below. Then Reed exhaled, his tone softening. You didn't just save Maria. You exposed corruption in my own house. Those guards were taking bribes, stealing from staff, and silencing anyone who talked. I didn't see it. You did. Ethan shrugged. Sometimes you see more when you're the one cleaning the floors. That line struck Reed deeper than he expected. For years, he lived at the top, untouchable, unaware. But this janitor, this forgotten soldier, had done in one night what he, with all his power, had failed to do: protect the innocent. A week later, Maria was recovering in a small private room. Lila sat by her bed, coloring quietly. When Ethan entered, the little girl ran to him, smiling for the first time since that awful night. "Mr. Ethan," she cried. "Mommy's getting better." Ethan crouched to her level. "Told you she was strong." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "How do I ever thank you? You saved my life and my daughter's." Ethan smiled gently. "You don't owe me anything. Just keep her safe. That's enough." From the doorway, another voice spoke. Maybe I owe you something. It was Reed, dressed simply for once. No suit, no arrogance. Just a man trying to make something right. He stepped in, holding a folder. Ethan, he said, after what happened, I launched an internal audit. Turns out, those guards were part of a network using my company's logistics to move illegal goods. You didn't just save Maria. You exposed a ring that could have destroyed us. Ethan stayed silent. Reed continued. The police confirmed your record. You were decorated for valor, discharged after a classified mission. You could have been anything, yet you chose to sweep floors. Why? Ethan looked out the window. Because I wanted to remember what it means to be human again. Reed studied him for a moment, then placed a folder on the table. That's why I'm offering you something new. Not charity, respect. I want you to head a new division. Corporate security and ethics oversight. Full authority. Report only to me. Ethan's brow furrowed. You want a janitor to run security? I want a man who sees what others ignore, Reed replied. A man who acts when others look away. For the first time in years, Ethan hesitated. The offer stirred something he thought he'd buried, a sense of purpose. He finally nodded, on one condition. Name it. That Maria and Lila get protection and a real home. Reed smiled faintly. Already arranged. Months later, the transformation at Reed and company was remarkable. Ethan's quiet discipline reshaped the company culture. He trained new guards personally, implemented background checks, and built a reputation for fairness and integrity. Employees who once ignored him now stood taller when he walked by. But Ethan never changed. He still swept the floor sometimes, out of habit, not duty. Keeps me grounded, he'd tell them. Lila often visited his small office, bringing drawings. One day, she handed him one that made him pause, a picture of him standing between her and her mother, a bright sun above them, with the words written in childish handwriting. My hero. He swallowed hard, blinking back emotion. You've got a big heart, kid, he murmured. Lila smiled. You're like my dad now. Maria, standing in the doorway, smiled softly. She's right, you know. Ethan looked at them both. The little family fate had dropped into his life, and for the first time in years, the ghost of his past grew quiet. The award ceremony. Months later, Reed and Company held a charity gala honoring its employees. The media expected to see Reed himself at the center, but when the lights dimmed, he stepped aside and took the microphone. Tonight, he said, we honor not just success, but courage. A man who reminded us that heroism doesn't wear a title or a suit, it wears humility. He gestured toward the stage. Captain Ethan Cole. Applause thundered to the hall as Ethan stepped forward, uncomfortable under the spotlight. Reed placed a medal in his hands, but Ethan shook his head. I can't take this, he said quietly. Reed frowned. Why not? Ethan looked out at the crowd. Because real heroes don't work for applause. They work for peace. And the woman who almost lost her life, that's the reason I'm standing here. He turned toward Maria and Lila, sitting in the front row. This, he said, voice steady, this is why I came back. The audience rose to their feet, clapping not just for a man, but for what he represented. The kind of strength that protects, not destroys. Epilogue. Later that night, when the crowd had gone and the city lights flickered outside, Reed approached Ethan quietly. You know, the CEO said, I used to think power meant control. You taught me it means responsibility. Ethan chuckled. And I used to think peace meant walking away. Turns out it means standing up for the right things. Reed extended his hand. Partners, then? Ethan shook it. Partners. As they walked out, Lila ran up between them, holding both their hands. Come on, she said. Mommy made pie. They laughed, walking into the warm glow of the evening. Ethan looked up at the night sky, the scars of his past softened by purpose. He wasn't just a janitor or a soldier or a forgotten man anymore. He was something greater, a protector reborn in the simplest of places. And somewhere deep inside, he finally believed it. Heroes aren't born in glory. They're found in moments of compassion, in the hands of those the world forgets.